So there's a big difference between a food allergy and histamine intolerance. And the first time I read about this, it really opened up my eyes. And I've now been researching histamine intolerance, ways to clear histamine, a lot more for the protocol, and I stumbled upon it again. So I just wanted to give you just some backstory on the whole thing, or just some information on the whole thing, basically. So what could So let's first talk about the ways in which both develop in the body. A food allergy has to do with the fact that the gut barrier is is not as strong as you want it to be. Right? And this could be because of multiple reasons. It could, for example, be because of inflammation in the gut causing leaky gut. Let's just keep this simple, right? And then also, if you've had a food allergy for longer, it might be because as a child you developed this as a child, and when you're still growing, your gut barrier is also growing, and it might not be fully intact when you're not an adult yet. So this food protein then passes through the gut barrier and gets into the bloodstream. And when it gets into the bloodstream, it's picked up by a different type of cell, and this cell takes it to your immune system, let's say, because it's not sure what this type of food protein is, right? Normally, it's very unusual for the body to see food proteins just floating around in the bloodstream. Normally, these are amino acids that are broken down in the gut, and then the body uses this to build certain things, right? To fuel the body and such. Well, this food protein is then taken by the cell, is taken to the immune system, and it's basically asking the immune system, like, what is this? Is this dangerous? Is this type of parasite? Is this a pathogen? And then, depending on the state of your body at that time, so if you're very inflamed, if you've been inflamed for a while, the body tends to say, because it's on high alert, it tends to say, yeah, it might definitely be a parasite, right? And then it creates an IgE molecule specifically against this type of protein, this type of food protein, and these IgE molecules are then basically put onto mast cells. Right? So the mast cells are directly primed against this type of food protein. Let's say this kind of happened to me as well when I was sick, and I was on a low histamine diet, I think, and I was eating tons of white fish, like tilapia and such. And I actually got I think I got an allergy kind of thing. It wasn't a full allergy, I'll be honest, but it was kind of something like this. And then, so mast cells are also heavily populated in like the things that are in contact with the outside world. For example, your nose, but also your mouth, your esophagus, like the lining of your stomach and your gut. So in the future, so let's say you are now suddenly allergic to broccoli, and let's just say that. And in the future, then you eat the broccoli again, and because these IgA cells are now, and these mast cells are now primed with IgE molecules that instantly recognize the food protein of the broccoli, they will degranulate just like crazy, right? Because it thinks it's a foreign invader trying to get into your body, and it will do everything it can against it entering. So one of the things it releases is histamine, massive amounts of histamine. And this histamine will then also cause this localized swelling. So I don't know if you might have heard about this, where people that are heavily allergic to certain types of things have to carry an EpiPen, which has adrenaline in it, which could save them in case they get a severe allergic reaction to the type of food they're eating. And then, because like I said, these mast cells are also in the throat and such, right? So if you get this massive swelling right there, it could obstruct your ability to breathe, and then you might actually, it could be very dangerous. You could actually pass away. Good. So that's in short how a real food allergy could develop. Histamine intolerance is a completely different thing where you're not actually allergic to a certain type of food, but it's the amount of histamine in the food that's giving you kind of these symptoms. And let's just say, for example, you've been inflamed for a while, your gut is not really working properly, and you want to heal your gut. So you start eating a lot of fermented foods like just sauerkraut, kimchi, and just stuff like that. The important thing then is that you've got adequate DAO. You've probably heard of it. So DAO is the enzyme that degrades the histamine that's in your gut. So it's not passing, it's not like overflowing into your bloodstream and such. The problem that people that have been inflamed for longer, people that have histamine intolerance, the problem that I had is that when your gut does get inflamed, you will also not have adequate amounts of DAO to break down the histamine of the food that you're eating. So what then happens, and you've got to kind of see histamine intolerance as a bucket. So you've got this bucket of histamine, and when you're healthy, you've got enough DAO. You eat histamine food, the bucket rises with the histamine that's in it, but the DAO also reduces it, and then it's fine. You don't really get any symptoms. Everything is working perfectly fine. When you've not got enough DAO, the amount of histamine that you're taking, so the load of histamine that you're introducing to the body, is not being broken down properly, and then the amount of histamine in the bucket will rise and it will eventually overflow. And at the moment it overflows, you will get these histamine intolerance type symptoms, which are very, very broad type of symptoms depending on what type of histamine receptor at that point is being like activated. You could look at a histamine map on Google. It's very interesting actually to just see the enormous amounts of symptoms that histamine could give you. Right, so the difference between a real food allergy, like an IgE food allergy, and histamine intolerance is then histamine intolerance is a load problem, and an IgE food allergy is actually an immune system kind of reaction. To the food allergy, you cannot really do that much, right? At least not that I'm aware of. You could probably do certain things, like slowly reintroduce foods, like, to the histamine intolerance, you can actually do quite a lot. And, well, it's often by low histamine. The first step would be a low histamine diet. It's often recommended as well. And that will take care of the loading aspect of the histamine intolerance you've got. You could also take a histamine blocker, but this does not really do anything. It's like when you've got pain in your elbow because you've got like a tendon problem and you take a pain medication, you'll feel less pain, but it didn't really solve anything, right? But it will help you out, and it's something that will be included into the protocol, just because symptom relief in these phases when you're very not doing well is just a very important point that needs to be addressed, right? But the important thing in histamine intolerance and all these other chronic type of unexplained health conditions is actually to also reduce the load. So you would do like a low histamine diet, modified low histamine diet. And the second step, like I said, because you've got this bucket, it's not just about load, and you don't want to be on a low histamine diet your entire life. You also want to be living normally. You want to be eating the things you want to eat. When you're in a restaurant, you want to order the things you want to order, right? You don't always want to be looking, you don't always want to be very mindful of very restrictive about the way you're living. So it's also very important that we look at the clearance side of the whole thing, which is also DAO, but there's also different types of enzymes in the body that need to be working properly, right? And I didn't really speak about this because this was just about the intake of food causing either a food allergy type symptom or a histamine type symptom, but there's also, of course, different things that could release histamine in the body, and it's not dependent on the histamine load that you get from food. So there could also be, especially when you suddenly develop a histamine intolerance, it might also be that you're somehow creating so endogenous creation of histamine in the body that also needs to be addressed. This is a very complex thing, and it's something I'm currently working on. So when I've got a protocol that you could use, I'll put it up in the comments and you can have a look at it, right? So, but thank you for watching this video, and if you've got any questions, definitely leave them in the comments.